One of the key aspects of security in an organization is training. Being able to review what current training you have in play and what you need to do to grow the people that you have on your staff, and how you do education and awareness training for the general population. So the purpose of security awareness training is really to enhance security by educating people about what are the threats, what are the risks, what are the vulnerabilities out there. Because you want to educate people on what those are so they don't do stupid things like clicking on phishing emails or visiting websites with malware on it. You want to educate them such that they help improve your own security. If you look at the average education or security awareness of the typical user over the last 10 years, it's gotten significantly better. 10 years ago, you could have asked somebody what a phishing email was, and 60% of the time somebody would go, I have no idea what that is. Now, pretty much everybody knows what a phishing email is. The key is whether they click on it or not, and that's a whole nother story. But education generally is your first line of defense from a security perspective. So from awareness training all the way up through formal training like job training, how do you do your job, up to education, things you went to college for. What you're trying to do is build the skills and knowledge necessary for your staff at all levels across the entire organization to do their jobs effectively and not cause security incidents, as a side note there. Your organization probably has internal training requirements. And in fact, there are some requirements that are required by law. You have to be trained and certified to do your job. Pilots, financial traders, there are certain positions where you have to be in regulated sectors where you have to be trained and certified to do your job. There's a nice chart in the NIST Special Pub 800-12 that talks about training and the various levels of awareness versus training versus education. So if you look at the chart here, you'll see that right here in the awareness column, this is typically what I'd call drive-by training. This is very quick, very focused. What you're trying to do is give the recipient of the training what in quotes, a general awareness of what's going on. You're trying to pass information to them such that if you look at the objective there, you're trying to get them to recognize certain situations or recognize whatever it is that you're training them on. Some different methods could be through videos, posters. You might be able to test that they've learned something accordingly by true-false questions, multiple-choice questions. But just recognize that one of the limitations of awareness training is this impact time frame. It's short-term. So it's only going to last in somebody's head for a month, 3 months maybe. So you have to do awareness training on a frequent, recurring basis. From the middle column there, training, this is the how. This is typically what you see when you go to SANS or Global Knowledge or something like that. We're getting trained on how to do a particular job or a particular skill. And so you find that training methods here might be somebody standing up in front of a room like this, but you've also got a computer in front of you that you can do the hands-on keyboard, the hands-on type of practice. And you'll find that this type of knowledge is good for maybe a year, 2 years before that knowledge becomes OBE or people just flush it and forget it. The last category up there, education, this is the why. All right, why are we doing something? So that's what this is really trying to impart is insight or understanding into whatever it is that you're trying to train. And so you'll typically see this in college-level courses, master's degrees, MBA programs, that sort of thing. The point there is to get across long-term awareness or long-term education, long-term impact from the training. There are two other additional NIST special pubs that you can take a look at. 800-50 talks about how to build an information security or information technology security program, awareness training as well. And then there's also 800-16, which talks about the requirements. So 800-50 is how to build the program. 800-16 is what goes into that particular program, the requirements for it. As you're going through contemplating, how do I develop a training program or an awareness program, there are 4 things that you need to do. And there are 4 steps that go into building this program for you. First is the program design. What is your point behind the training program? What do you hope to accomplish? So define the strategy first. Come up with why you're doing the training program to begin with. Then start looking at material. All right, now I'm going to go create my course material, determine what the scope of it might be, and actually build the content for it. Third step is implementation. This is where, after we've got the material built, I'm going to roll it out. I'm going to deliver it through online methods or whatever the case may be. But I'm actually going to implement the training program that I've got. And then program post-implementation, the last step is, how do I update the information, my content in the course? How do I know that my training program is being effective? For roles and responsibilities, you'll find that as you push a training program out through an organization, everybody has to be involved in it. Otherwise, you're going to run into gaps, you're going to run into issues with funding or resourcing. And so generally, all of these roles that you see on the screen here are necessary for a training program implementation. At the head of an agency or a CEO, they have to assign responsibility for the training program and make sure that it's implemented and it is effective. Now, they're going to delegate all of that to their chief information officer, their CISO, or the program manager. But again, at the top, there has to be a level of acceptance that says, we're going to do this because it's important to us. The chief information officer may decide to, or may figure out what the overall training strategy is, but they're also going to be the person responsible for assigning resources to make sure that you can do this training program. So people, money, equipment, they're the ones who are going to chop that over to the training program to make sure that the security program manager has what they need to do their job, which is develop and actually deliver the training that this program is supposed to cover. And then managers and users. You have managers who essentially identify training needs and make sure that their people are getting trained so that they can do their job appropriately. And then the users, of course, actually have to attend the training and do something with it and apply it as they are taught in the classroom or through whatever instruction medium they use. There are several different components to a training program. This is kind of an interesting graphic that comes out of 800-50. And it says for each of the levels, there are different categories, different types of people that training is applicable for. And so it says that awareness training down here might be applicable for all users. Well, generally that's true. Everybody needs security awareness training. Then there's training itself, which is applied to all users involved with IT systems. So now you've got this level of training that goes over security operations, incident response, help desk, those types of functions. And then you have education up there, which is functional roles and responsibilities relative to IT systems. So these are your managers, your chief information security officer, need that level of education in order to apply security concepts and make sure that each level below it is being able to do what it needs to do. Let's focus for a second on end user training. Because this is where a lot of organizations spend a lot of time and effort from a training perspective. Appropriate employee training can manage security risks. Now, there is a good saying in security that there is no patch for user stupidity, and I truly believe that. This is probably as close as you can get to that aspect. The idea that you're educating users on security concepts, why it's important to adhere to those security policies and procedures, what to do in case of an emergency, what to do in case of a data breach, let's say, what are my responsibilities as an end user for protecting personal identifiable information, and that sort of thing. And what you find is that awareness training from an end user perspective only lasts so long. Again, maybe 3 months. It's usually drive-by training. I sit and watch a video for 30 minutes, and now I'm expected to remember this for a whole year. Probably not effective. But if you do it every quarter, probably more effective. You have to be, get over the attention deficit level and make sure that people are, have security at the top of their mind. Role-based training, again, so contrast this to awareness training. This is, what do I need to do my job? As a system administrator, an IT help desk person, incident responder, or security manager, what do I need to do my job? And this training is much more in-depth than what you'd find at the security awareness level. Some of the things that you probably ought to consider doing as part of a awareness training, look for what users commonly do and see where they make mistakes from a security perspective. So weak passwords, clicking on phishing links, inappropriately handling data. These are the mistakes that you find users making all the time. And so that's what you can do to build an awareness training program, is take the mistakes that your users are making, build training, awareness training on that, and push that out to your audience. It should also include threat awareness. So in addition to all the mistakes that users are making, put in there the realm of the possible. What can I get hit with as a company that's going to come through users as the vectors, right? The user is probably the first line of defense for an organization from a security perspective, because that's the weak link. The attackers out there know that, and they're going to try to take advantage of that. So if you put into your awareness training information about threats, what is currently going on out there in terms of phishing, loaded websites with malware on it, social engineering techniques, educate the user on the realm of the possible so that when they see it, they know that something's wrong here and I'm not going to allow it to happen. Professional development. So this is we transition a little bit from security awareness into which focuses on things I need to do my job and make my organization a more secure place, to professional development, which is how do I, as an individual in the company, grow? So what you'll see is that everybody needs professional development. It doesn't matter what level you are at within an organization. The point behind professional development is to define career paths and get people to grow from beginner all the way up to advanced, or grow into different areas. And so you're professionalizing what they're able to do in their current role. And what you'll see here from a professional development standpoint, a lot of this might be on-the-job training in different areas, might be academic study. But again, professional development is about reaching beyond what you do on your day-to-day basis and do some different things. So you'll see companies implement rotation programs where, for a 3-year program, each year you're in a different organization or a different part of your organization. And so that gives you the kind of the breadth of, what other areas are there in the organization? What else could I do? And the reason people do this is, one, it's important to stimulate career growth, but you might find that as part of this program, somebody in one job realizes they don't like doing that, but they did an internship or a 1-year rotation at somewhere else. They really like doing that. And so you see productivity gains from doing professional development in large organizations like that. As part of building your training program, it is absolutely imperative that you have stakeholder awareness on the program. And so what you want to do is go to your executive leadership and say, here's what we need from a training program. Here's what we're going to do. Here are the costs associated with it. Here are the benefits that we expect to see from the training program. And here are the risks associated with having this training program, either time, conflicts, whatever the case may be. But the point here is that as you step into building a training program, you want to be able to get the support of your executive leadership on this, because this is where all your resources are going to come from. Instead of people just blowing off the training and not doing it, when you have executive leadership backing, it gets done. People follow it. It also adds a level of accountability and responsibility from the standpoint that after people take their awareness training, if you have executive buy-in on it, you can hold people accountable to that training and what they're learning. So as you design a program, there are 3 major steps to designing the awareness program. You want to design what the program is going to look like. What's the scope of it? Who are you going to educate? How are you going to educate them? You want to develop the materials. This is the actual content that's going to go into your delivery format, whatever that might be. And then you're going to implement it. You want to make sure that it's culturally in line with your organization and what you do. If nobody learns by sitting in a classroom, don't do training in a classroom. So understand how your people in your organization learn and train appropriately. It has to support the business needs of the organization. You have to get something from it. Security, professional growth, whatever the case may be. Otherwise, ask yourself, why are we doing this training program? For developing the materials themselves, again, go back to the list of threats, security concerns, and ask, what do we want people to be aware of? What do we want to train people on? So from an awareness perspective, what goes into that? From training materials, what kind of skills or skill sets are we trying to teach? What do we want to have people learn in our on-the-job training class or whatever the case may be? But what do you want to have them learn? And build appropriate materials, recognizing that awareness training is different from training. That OJT or that position-specific training. And you don't want to reuse material for awareness training and call it, this is your, take our user awareness training and congratulations, security incident responder guy. Here's our awareness training. This constitutes your on-the-job training or your formal training for your job as an incident responder. Stuff like that doesn't work. You have different content for different audiences and different purposes. Implementing the program, you only want to do this after you've conducted your needs assessment, so you understand what kind of training you need. You've already developed a strategy. How are we going to push this training program out? What do we hope to cover? What do we hope to get about it? You've got some type of training plan that stipulates, that documents all of this. And then you've got your materials already developed. So once you've got all of that together, now you can actually go out and start delivering this type of training. And you might want to consider things like, well, what do we expect to get out of this as we go through this? Do I have the funding? Do I have the resources available to actually implement this training program? And then start thinking about measures of effectiveness. How do I know my training program is working? How do I know my security awareness training is working? One of the key areas of training is really understanding how effective it is. Is the security awareness training that I'm doing being absorbed by our users? So look at your training program and start coming up with metrics about how effective your program might be. And you could look at simple metrics like number of social engineering incidents. All right, I had, last month I had 6 phishing emails come in, and out of those 6, 4 people clicked on the link. How effective is my awareness program around phishing emails? Probably not very effective. But look at unauthorized systems, access to unauthorized systems. Number of policy violations is a good one to use as well. And from this set of metrics that you're designing, you can come up with and be able to plot a trend analysis on, look, we're finding that this awareness program is not doing well. We're finding that users in, say, just arbitrarily pick human relations really don't get it. And they're the constant source of policy violations. I've seen organizations where if you have a policy violation on the first time, your supervisor talks to you. The third time you get some type of written letter or notice or something that you have to sign that says, I messed up and I won't do it again. The third time your internet access is cut off. Well, what that means is you can do your job with the file server and everything else you have locally, you just can't get out to the internet. That's a big motivator for people to absorb this training and actually do it. So post-implementation, again, you want to monitor compliance with the program and see how effective it is. You want to gather feedback from the courses that you're offering, questionnaires, focus groups, whatever the case may be. You want to see, how effective your training is and how it could be improved. You might find that, again, the classroom venue is not appropriate for a lot of people to learn in. And so you might try online training. You might try one-on-one training and those sorts of things. You want to be able to rapidly update your training as technologies or new threats come out. And essentially what you're doing is raising the bar for individuals to progress and get better with you.